Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. Your host, a behavioral scientist and bachelor, talks to leading experts and successful singles about living solo and living well. Travel more, make things, sleep in when you want to. Here's the playbook for the person who is unapologetically unattached. Now, please welcome Dr. Peter McGraw.
Welcome back. As the podcast continues to grow, I want to thank those of you who are sharing it with others. In this episode, I speak to the co-hosts of the live comedy show, All My Single Friends. One of those co-hosts is a dating coach. We discuss a variety of topics, including some tips for how to meet people in real life. Hint, have a piece of paper with your name and phone number already written down. Why dating is not a waste of time, even if your date doesn't work out. And why you divorced folks might need a makeover. If you stick around to the end, in this week's bonus material, my guests critique 2 dating profiles, one from a previous guest, and ... mine. It's a lot of fun. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Welcome to a special dual taping of my podcasts, with both episodes coming out just before my book, Shtick to Business, which launches on April Fool's Day. Find it on Amazon. The first is I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. The other is my recently launched podcast, Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's first guest is Daliya Karnofsky. Daliya is a comedian, performer, and dating coach. She works privately with clients on everything from online dating profiles, that's a little bit of foreshadowing, to breaking up and moving on. She hosts the podcast Not Your Therapist, which is one-on-one dating coaching for guests, both anonymous and not. And she is the co-creator and co-host of the live show All My Single Friends, which is half comedy show, half live dating app, and occurs once a month in Los Angeles. Welcome, Daliya.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our next guest is Avra Friedman. Avra is a comedian, actress, and writer. She plays a recurring role on Steven Soderbergh's new comedy series, Now Apocalypse. I'm a big fan of Soderbergh. I hope he's great in real life. Don't say if he isn't. Her acting, writing, and stand-up has been featured on Late Night with Lily Singh, The Giant Beast, Lifetime, True TV, Adult Swim, BuzzFeed, The New Yorker, Elizabeth Banks' Woo Ha Ha, and Amy Poehler's Smart Girls. Avra is the co-host and co-creator of All My Single Friends. Welcome, Avra.
Thank you.
All right. So if you two weren't working in comedy, writing, or coaching, what would you be doing with your lives?
Oh, wow. I think I would be baking cookies.
Oh, you do have this is Daliya, you have a baking
I do have
show.
I had a baking and love advice show, but now I just bake for fun.
Oh, okay.
So I'd probably be baking. I always dream about living on a farm, making truffles, barefoot, having a child on each breast, and, milking cows and doing that sort of thing. But then also there's a world in which I would just be a therapist.
Okay.
Which isn't that far off from what I do already.
Yeah, so you're like on the edge of
I'm
therapy.
on the edge
Yes,
of glory.
on the edge of therapy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you had to choose between baking and therapy.
I mean, baking is therapy. Maybe baking as therapy. I guess like if I don't love the idea of owning a baking business and having to make a profit, but I just love baking and making a mess in my kitchen. Mm-hmm. So, I think my ideal is really baking while doing therapy, which is kind of how it all began, when I was in high school and people would come over and I would bake cookies and they would tell me about their boy problems. And that's been my life ever since.
There is something about that sort of comfortable space.
Yeah. Like therapy in a kitchen, and I'm giving you chocolate and sugar and you're pouring your heart out to me.
And you're giving me information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I think some world of that, which honestly isn't very far off from what I do right now.
Do you give your guests on your podcast treats?
Yes, always. There's always a plate of treats and a box of Kleenex because we talk about those kind of things. Yeah.
There's just coincidentally some napkins here. It wasn't.
Sure.
I wasn't anticipating that. And I haven't thought about having treats.
Always got to have treats for your guests. I think that's how you get stuff out of them. You make them comfortable. Eating makes everyone comfortable. and then they're willing to open their hearts to you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Avra?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really hard question for me. If I had to stop like midway through, like right now, I would just leave the country and never talk to anyone again. So I don't know if
you
that
would
answers...
exile yourself.
Oh, like absolutely. And I would not give anyone warning. It would probably be to Asia, specifically Thailand.
Okay.
Wow.
But if I had to start over, that feels like too hard of a question to ask. So I can only ask my version of the question, which I hope was your version too. I don't know.
Look, no one has ever said that they would just check out completely.
Oh, okay.
So,
Wow.
There's a lot of people who'd say I'd be dead.
Oh, my God.
That sounds too scary for whatever causes that. So I can't think about that. But I think just like exit it, smooth exit. Irish
would you-
goodbye, you know.
I'm a big fan of the Irish
Oh my God,
goodbye.
I wish everyone did it. I wish it was so acceptable.
We need to teach the
God.
world to Irish goodbye.
We need
I'm
to
all with it.
spread that on the billboards.
Can you define, for the audience, will you please define your Irish goodbye? What an Irish goodbye is?
Irish goodbye is when you're ready to leave, and instead of making your rounds that you do not want to make, and no one probably wants you to interrupt their conversations for you to make, is you just exit without telling everyone or anyone.
Do you send a follow-up?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
I
Because
do-
sometimes
I
I
do.
feel like I have to send one like the next day, like, thanks so much. Sorry I didn't say goodbye. You were talking to other people. But then I'm like, is that worse? Because like they get it. I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I actually just text Irish goodbye
No, you
to
don't.
people. Yes.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
So then they know
wow.
that I'm gone and they know that I'm okay and all that.
Oh,
it's
I
less of
like
a
to
sentiment.
pretend that I didn't do that. And maybe they just forgot because they're hosting a thing and they're drinking and they said goodbye to so many people. Why do I stand? I mean, I can't be like the main person they were hoping that would say goodbye. Like, that's very selfish. So, like, I'm not going to.
I see. I'm known
One
for the
person.
Irish goodbye. I have this thing which is
wow, yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm a particularly stealthy person. For
No,
some.
you're very
I'm
tall.
large,
You're
yeah.
too tall.
But I have this thing that I like. If someone if they turn their head 45 degrees,
Yeah.
and I'm out of their sight, I can be gone. And then my thing is, I'm sleeping by the time they recognize that I'm
Wow.
gone. So,
Wow.
so my reason for the Irish goodbye is
Yeah.
not the awkward goodbyes. It's that people don't want you to leave.
Oh,
And so
that's
then they
part
try
of it for me. Yeah.
and that's hence the Irish part of it. So try to say goodbye to a drunk Irish person. And they're like, come on, one more pint, you know.
Yeah, I think it's actually not awkward. It's like almost the opposite. It's like, oh, now we're like all having fun again and you can't leave during the fun parts
Yes.
and now you have to have fun parts with everyone and maybe you don't want to have fun anymore, hence you trying to leave, you know?
Hence, you
It's
would
like,
Irish goodbye.
I wish it was awkward. Then it's just clearly we're both feeling awkward. Let's end this now. But
So you would Irish goodbye your life, is what you're saying.
oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, sure. Thank you. Wow, I had never defined it that way, but thank you for. I'll use that in the future for
All right,
sure.
please.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so this is going to skew, obviously I'm taping this for both podcasts, but it's going to skew solo.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
my new love.
Great.
Yeah.
You know,
Makes
I have
sense.
90 plus episodes of I'm Not Joking.
Damn, I
You
didn't
folks
know
are going to
that.
be in like number 12 or so. So you're in early.
That's awesome.
And so let's talk a little bit about your show,
Okay.
All My Single Friends.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very solo focused show, at least temporarily.
Temporarily. It's for people who are solo, but maybe don't want to be solo anymore. Or maybe they want other solo friends.
Oh, good.
Because that's really the idea behind it, is less even like you're going to meet your soulmate and it's a matchmaking experience, and more of we heard a lot of complaints from people that are like, all my friends are married, all my friends are in relationships. I don't have any single friends to go out with and have fun and meet other single people. So kind of the biggest idea behind it is creating a community of single people who can wingman each other.
I'm so excited about this because one of the themes of solo is how important friends are. If you're going to live a single life, that you're not. So one of the really striking findings about single people is they're typically more connected and more broadly connected than people who are partnered up.
What do you mean by connected?
They have more friends. They're involved in a broader
True.
range of community activities and so
Yeah,
on.
they're doing I mean, it's your typical, like, when you're single, you're trying to meet people, you're out in the world, you're having new experiences, adventures, going on trips, doing things. And once you get into a relationship, you're like, found it. Don't need to do anything anymore. I think I'll sit on my couch, like, for sure.
And, you know, what you end up doing is when you don't have one person to rely on for a variety of things, you might have a suite of people to rely on. Like, this is my friend I go out for drinks with. This is my friend I go hiking with. This is the friend I call when I'm down and out and so on. But a question you get is, how do I go about developing that group, recognizing how important it is so you're not isolated, and that you have this group, how do you go about doing it, especially as you get older and there are fewer and fewer people available? And so evidently, if you live in Los Angeles, you go to the monthly show, All My Single Friends.
Yes, you do.
And what happens in the show?
Would you like us to explain the process?
Yeah, it's on my calendar.
Yeah.
I haven't been yet.
Yes.
Well, we'll give you the
We'll walk
sneak
you through
peek,
it. Yeah.
which is that
Sell the shit out of it.
yes, doing it. Well, everyone that comes, we also, single people come and anyone is allowed to come. So we get people in relationships, married people, people who are confused, people who bring dates, and then it's like, are they single? Are they not?
Oh,
Are
should
they
you
about
not bring a date?
It can be a fun
No,
first date.
totally.
People do it all the time.
Bring 'em.
People will have their first app date be there. They'll be like, do you want to go to this show with me? Because it's also just something different and it's more interactive than a comedy show, and it leads to interesting conversations and helps people get to know each other. And it's just something fun and different. Okay, take it away.
Can I interrupt? For a second?
Yeah.
So Daliya and I met at, speaking of bringing people together,
Yeah.
at this monthly event I do at my apartment called the Dilemma Dinner. Mm-hmm. And so it's for folks in the business of comedy, where people bring a puzzle, personal or professional, not a table puzzle.
Oh, because I'd
Something
be
a
interested in that as well. That's my evening on the
That would be a
town for
long
you.
night. It's a short. I keep it short.
Okay.
But I recently a woman I matched with online. I invited her as a guest to the Dilemma Dinner.
Had you been on a date before?
Never. We had talked on the phone.
Wow.
Yes.
Did she come?
She did.
How was it?
She was great.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And then were you like, okay, let's go on a date? Or were you like, that was all I needed you for?
We're going to see each other again. I'm not sure. Well,
It's okay. It'll
I'm not
probably
sure.
be resolved by the time this comes out.
I think we're going to see each other again in some capacity because I thought she was an impressive person.
Yeah, that's great.
The dinner's not a great place to figure out a lot of things, but you get to know if you like someone or not.
Yeah.
You get to know if they're smart or not.
So you could tell from like talking to her before that she was in comedy. You guys talked about comedy, and you were like, "Oh, come to this thing."
Actually, I was desperate for another person, and she agreed to do it last minute. I was like on the phone with her. Someone canceled, and I was like, "So, what are you doing on Sunday?"
Wow.
And then I pitched
Bold.
the dinner to her, and she said yes.
I like
That's
it.
cool.
It's great.
Yeah.
People should do more things like that, I think.
And so the idea that you would bring a date to this thing, it's probably illuminating.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What's happening?
Okay, tell us.
Oh, so when everyone arrives, we give out these stickers that have numbers 1 through however many people come, and then taken stickers. So if you're single, you get a number, and if you're taken of any kind, you get a taken sticker. And then we have had people propose, I don't know what I am. I'm maybe single. I'm maybe single for only tonight because this sounds interesting. We have all sort of varieties. I think we've had just question mark as one if somebody is just feeling like they need to put that on their shirt.
Or open. We've had people in open relationships.
Yeah, that's good.
Right, open on their sticker, which is fine too.
And so we ask them at the beginning if they want to be interviewed on stage. And if they say yes, we put their number in a hat. And we also have the audience at the beginning of the show submit questions that we interview the single people with. And those can range from truly anything from like, what's your favorite color to what do you like in bed to what's your relationship with your parents? We've had all kinds, including like, how do you fold your toilet paper or do you crinkle it?
I see.
People have interesting things they want to know that
I'm
you.
a buncher. I bunch my toilet paper.
Okay.
Yeah,
See,
okay.
like, did
See,
we
there
learn
you
something
go.
from
We
that?
learned.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Are we compatible based on the fact that you do that? Don't know. You know,
Not sure.
like,
Yes.
Yeah, someone the other day at our show, because we had one a couple days ago, was like, what kind of questions? And I was like, questions you would ask on a first date. Like, what's your relationship with your parents like? And he was like, I would never ask that on a first date. And I was like, okay, so questions you wouldn't ask on a first date, but you would want to ask on a first date is kind of the guide post for writing these audience questions.
see.
And those go in a bag as well.
yeah.
All right. And wait, I hear this is a weird question, but
Yeah.
do you sit on either side of the guest, or you sit sort of the two of you next to each other, and then are you standing?
Well, we check people in at the front. We're behind a table. We check people and we ask, are you single or taken? They sign in. They give us all their information.
Okay.
So like email, Instagram, whatever, however they would want to be looked up by somebody. And then throughout the course of the night, we also have stand-up comedians. So we have about 4 comics, and in between each comic, we conduct these audience
I see.
interviews where we call people up on stage. We do them one at a time. So Avra will do 2, I'll do 2.
I
And
see.
generally we stand in the middle and we have them on either side of us. We generally call up a male identifying and female identifying person, but sometimes we'll do 4, so we'll do 2 of each, or if we're really feeling frisky, we'll do 6. And we conduct these interviews, and sometimes audience will yell out things, and the comedians do their sets as kind of a break from the intense
I love it.
getting to know you portion. And then we also give out free tequila shots, so that kind of helps with the whole atmosphere. And we give them a break in the middle to mingle a little bit more,
So
talk
it's
to
a
each
full,
other.
this is a big event.
It's a big event.
Okay.
And then at the end of the night, when they leave, they write down the numbers of all the people they saw who they were interested in as they leave. So whether they talk to that person or not, they could be like, I liked 10, 14, and 7, and the girl who was on stage with the curly hair.
And then
or
you do like a matching thing
and
later?
then we email them the next day.
If it's, I assume it's both people.
No,
say
so
yes?
it's actually just a person will get an email if they were liked by somebody else, regardless if they liked that person
Okay.
back. So it's like, congratulations, you were spotted. This person was interested in you. If you're into them, you can reach out on your own, or you can say, give them my contact, please give them my contact info, or the options are plentiful.
Yeah, that's great. Have you had any major matches as a result of it?
We have at least one engagement that we're aware of. And we have just a lot of couples. I know a couple, it's actually, I won't disclose the information, but a client of mine met a woman there and they are now fully dating.
Okay.
So we've had 6-month relationships, 3 months. The engagement we know about.
How much sex? That's what
I think a lot of sex.
Sure. We do give out free condoms, so
that are branded
provide.
on my single friends.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yes. So lots of sex, lots of makeouts.
I need some solo branded condoms.
You do.
Oh,
That
we
could
know
be
where you can get
interesting.
those. So
Yeah.
we'll hook you
I'm
up.
writing this down.
We also, one thing I will say, and back to our previous point, is that like a lot of people, it has really become, we've been doing it for 4 years now, and it's really become a community, and a lot of people, if they don't come to every show, they come to a lot of shows, so people know each other. We had someone who, because of our show, had somewhere to go for Thanksgiving, like met other people, and especially in a place like LA, which is lacking community in many ways. I think for a lot of people, it's just like, oh, like these are all my single friends. Like I go to this with them, or like I met these people there, and it's really, we always get new, fresh people, but then there's also always an element of people who are coming back, and it's kind of really nice.
The regulars.
Yeah.
How did you two get hooked up to do this?
Oh, we just started
Created
it
it.
on our own.
You were friends before?
Yeah.
And had you collaborated on anything before that?
No.
We were both doing stand up, and we did it a lot together. We went to open mics together. We were in kind of that world, and then we were like, we should start our own show. And then we kind of came up with this. At the time, I was in a different relationship than I am now. Avra was single, and we were like seeing all of our friends on dating apps, and we're like, we want to create a space where single people can come, and there's also comedy, and it hasn't been done before. And so we just started the show together 4 years ago.
It was really like in the height of the online dating like craze when
When it
everyone
started,
was on
I
an
think.
app, and it was like
Yeah.
the biggest thing ever and the most talked about. And yeah, not that, it's that much
still there,
lower
yeah.
now, but it
Yeah.
felt like it was like everything.
Peak app.
Yeah, peak
Yeah.
app.
Yeah.
And and how do you two do? I have to imagine there's lots of people. I mean, well, you're married at this point.
I'm
now.
engaged.
You're engaged, okay. But
We have both gone through various, like when we started, I was
I
in
can
a
imagine you
couple,
two getting
Avra was
lots of
single.
people putting your numbers in the hat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wear a number for that reason.
Yeah, we just stopped wearing numbers.
And keep it very ambiguous if people are like, oh, but what's your number? Or, oh, I see that you're not wearing a number. Or did I miss your number?
I
Oh,
see.
no, I'm not in
think-
that portion.
For a couple years, we wore numbers or wore taken stickers because we both were in various degrees of relationships throughout. But at a certain point, I think we were just like, we are the orchestrators and
Yes,
the mother
I see.
hens. We're not really.
Clients.
I do get a lot of people still writing down the hosts on the stickers. Just like,
that's
gotta give them
flattering.
credit for trying,
Sure.
But yeah,
It's also hard
definitely.
when you're like in a host position being like, oh my God, yeah, are you having fun? Isn't this great? Aren't you so happy? Oh my God, I love your shirt. And like, it's all honest and it comes from an honest place, but it's sort of like you are being the host of something and you are playing a very specific role. But I think people can sometimes like skew that as like, oh my God, we had that great talk where
Yes.
like you gave me so much positive energy and it was so fun. And we were like vibing when really I'm like kind of vibing with everyone just
Because you're a good host.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that. I mean, also there's something about being on stage and doing that stuff that makes you just, even more
Yeah,
appealing.
definitely.
And if you had to like turn somebody down, you're still like, well, but come to my show next month, please. Don't want to lose you. Are you on our mailing list? You know, so
Right.
I wouldn't want anyone to feel like, oh, I said no to you, but like still come back and it won't be awkward. Like,
Yeah, so that's good. That makes sense. I just can imagine this world.
Yeah. No,
you
that,
know.
I mean, people ask that a lot. Or like, if you are in a relationship, they're like, how do you still like host the show though? And I'm like, that's.
I'm going to be doing the show when I'm pregnant, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
can picture.
No, I mean, it's.
No.
Yeah, everyone has dated, even if they are currently only dating one person or only, you know, whatever. It's like something everyone can relate to.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Now I regret asking that question because it's such an obvious question.
No, but it's obvious, but that means everyone wants to know the answer. So you're just thinking of your listeners, which is nice.
I feel like we're really vibing right now.
Oh, I'm feeling the vibes. I mean, you're a great host, so yeah.
So, all right, I have a bunch of things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want the random stuff or do you want like the meat of what I had planned?
Oh, like
Listen,
whatever
you
you're
drive the
feeling.
Okay, you two are
You
nice.
take control, solo captain.
Okay, so let's get into this sort of dating coaching stuff because it's adjacent to the show. Have you appeared on?
No.
Avra keeps her private life rather private. And so as much as I would love to have her on my show, I also know that that's just not like, we could not be more opposite in that way. Like I'm obsessed with dating and Avra
Doesn't date.
doesn't.
Okay.
So like it'd be like, when was your last date? No.
She does have relationships more because they seek her out, but she's never been a like guy focused or romance focused person, whereas I'm obsessed, but like she's kind of just,
Could kinda
it falls
go
in
with
her
that.
lap, you know?
Like, sure.
So you're good compliments then.
Yeah.
Different perspectives
we're
and so on.
very complementary energies, I think.
Yeah, that's great. So I like the idea. So, one of the things that comes up time and time again is this idea of single people need a team. So not just this group of friends, but they need experts in their life. I mean, frankly, anybody needs experts in their life, but I feel like when you're on your own, the experts become even more important. So some of those experts, you know, obviously, I'm actually taping what might end up becoming a series on therapy. So I just taped an episode that may come before or after this about choosing a therapist.
And you're the host of that?
No, it's just for solo
okay,
people.
okay,
So,
cool.
you know, how do you go about finding someone like this?
I'd love to know that. I feel like I fail in Los Angeles.
It's not easy to do.
It's hard.
And people don't know and should know.
Exactly.
That's very thoughtful.
And, you know, so other people, you know, would be like some sort of financial planner. I always talk about getting a fee-based financial planner, someone who's going to act in your best interest objectively and so on. And the list kind of goes on and on. Even having a barber or a hairstylist is an important thing, like on the reg, and the value that they can provide for both the outside of your head and even the inside of your
True.
head.
They can act as a therapist as well.
Yes. And so anytime you have a major problem in your life, you know, your car breaks down, you know, you don't DIY it anymore. You go see an expert, and people's dating lives are breaking down all the time. And so I love the idea of having a coach. Like, why not spend the money and the time and the effort and talk to a professional? And so, you have like a bunch of offerings.
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have the quick fix.
Quick fix.
One session to get you up to speed.
Yep.
The long game.
Yes, I like the long game.
A monthly subscription to get you to and keep your A game. Wing Woman. I love this one.
I do this, yes.
Daliya will go out on the town with you and help you with your in real life, your IRL. And then the App Queen, you're gonna help people with their profiles.
Yes. And I have had clients in the past who also wanted me to actually swipe and talk for them.
Oh, wow.
Like I do everything,
So,
like
like,
I'm them. That was interesting.
Cyrano de Bergerac style.
Yep.
So we're going to get back to the app stuff because in the solo bonus material for this week, I have brought 2 dating profiles for the 2 of you to critique.
Can't wait.
One of them
Is yours.
is mine. So we have to get to that.
Important.
So I think the thing, I think the thing is like, where are the pain points in dating that you both see most often? And I'd like to make this beyond LA.
Yeah. I mean, I get a lot of people being like, LA, it's so hard to date. And I'm like, maybe slightly harder than anywhere else. But my general feeling, and from what I see, and I have clients all over the country, it's hard everywhere.
Okay.
Because everyone, and will lead me to what I think is the major pain point, is isolated in their homes and looking for finding this person on a device, the same way that they order groceries. They think that's how it's going to work. And it's not that the apps are inherently bad, because I don't think they are. It's that people think that's the only thing they can do. And if it doesn't work there, they're not trying in real life anymore. They're not getting off the couch. They're not going out and talking to people. They're not doing things like our show and interacting and putting themselves out there. And people have really grown afraid of rejection and wasting their time, which I put in heavily in quotes.
She's making air quote signs
of
right
like,
now.
I don't want to spend an hour of my life meeting someone unless I know that it's, quote, worth it. And I'm like, the only way you're going to waste your time is if you're trying to not waste your time and trying to evaluate if something is worth it. It's worth it. You will learn something. You will have an experience. You will grow from it. Could be your best friend, could be your new business partner, could be a funny story. But the idea that I'm going to sit at home on my phone and not put myself out there and it should come to me somehow and fall into my lap like it does in a rom-com, I think is really, really hurting us. And I think we have to get over the idea that dating should be easy. It can be fun, but it still requires, just like if you were trying to get fit, you would go to the gym.
Yeah, exercise is hard, but it can be fun.
Right. And if you're trying to get better at something, you have to do it more. You're not going to get better by sitting at home and just narrowing your parameters that you're using on the apps. That's not going to bring you the results that you want.
And we know you don't need the apps because Avra doesn't need the apps.
Avra doesn't. They do fall into her lap, but she's like an outlier. Don't think of her as an example.
The app, I mean, to me, the apps are, they're kind of the I don't think they're sufficient, but they tend to be necessary.
They're totally necessary. They can expand your network. And if you do them the right way, it's like being in a bar with 2,000 people.
Yes. I've met wonderful women that
Totally.
I never, ever would have met otherwise. And so that's the argument, I think, for it.
Yeah.
I also like that idea that narrowing may not be the solution.
It is not the solution.
This came up in episode 1, and I had some people reach out to me about it, where I said that my dating life became way better, way more interesting when I got rid of a checklist.
Yes, thank you.
And
yes.
I really ended up having 2 requirements, which was, do I find the person attractive? And do I like talking to them?
Yeah, perfect.
And then suddenly, especially when, I mean, I have also the great advantage of not having a strict goal.
Right.
I have an anti-goal.
Right.
Yes. So I don't want to be married with children.
Right.
And so, but everything else in between, like, I don't want to say below that because that creates a different thing. But anything but that is on the table. So, an enjoyable coffee is a win. All the way to having.
And that's how I think everyone, including people who are looking for marriage and children, need to be approaching it. The checklist is not helping you. Yeah.
Especially because I don't know about you two, but my checklist was wrong. My checklist looked like me.
Well, that's what most people do too.
And I realized actually slowly, that I don't want to date myself.
No.
That often the women who I was happiest with weren't as sporty as I was, weren't as extroverted as I was, and all these kinds of things.
Well, and I think that's it too, is that a lot of people.
She's shaking her head and smiling.
No, I really like that realization. Yeah.
I mean, I think when you think, what I say to my clients a lot is, if you look at the people that you've gotten into relationships with in your past, or people that you've had a crush on or whatever, very rarely on paper were they probably someone you would date. But yet we think by putting everything on paper in our minds for the apps, that's going to lead us to the right person. And it's like, that's just not how it works. It's simply a matter of timing and chemistry, attraction, and do you like this person as a person? And then, you figure out if your goals line up and that sort of thing, if you have goals. And
some values matter. I
yes.
think.
But that's not something you're going to find out for a while. And so the idea that you could, when I get people saying, and Avra, feel free to jump in at any time because I know you're actually still experiencing this more than me, but when I get people saying like, I want someone loyal and kind and hardworking and a family man and upstanding. And I'm like, those are qualities of a relationship you have with a person. Those are not qualities of a person.
Yes. Thank you so much. Like, you're only as loyal as you like someone.
Right. As the person you're with. And yes, sure, the whole like cheater's always a cheater, like once a cheater, blah, blah. But like generally you build a bond and a shared sense of humor and whatever else is important to you about someone's, all you really need for a checklist, like you said, is do you like them as a person? Are they a good person?
Yes.
Like that is important. Or do they have a strong character? But other than that, like,
so I can run by, my like sort of standards for a friend. And so it's actually, I probably should say it's more than, it's more than am I attracted and do I like the conversation. I think it's these 4 things plus I want to have sex with you. So here are the 4 things. 1 is trustworthy, reliable, energizing. That's broadly.
That's for you. Yes. That's not a quality of a person. Again, that's someone.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Effect they have on you. Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm looking at friends, I can trust them. They're reliable. I find them energizing. And maybe you could say the sex part is an extension of that. And then the last one is, and I haven't put a word on it yet. I stole this from someone else is, I can share good and bad news with them. And the good news, they want to celebrate, and the bad news they want to commiserate. And so they're not competitive, essentially. They're not like, oh, that was good. Well, you wait till you hear my good news.
Okay.
Or you hear my bad news.
Yeah.
And so some of it's maybe about empathy. Or
I was going to say empathy or like a good listener
like I haven't worked that 4th one out yet.
I like it.
But, to me, I think that is like about reactions to who they are versus finding that. Okay, so the big pain point is people sort of expecting that it comes to them.
Well, just isolating themselves in general, I think, and not wanting to put themselves out there and take a risk.
Yes. Now, this seems to be, and I want to hear from both of you about this, more important than ever for women to do. And let me tell you why I think this is the case. I think that there are a lot of men in the world who are scared, concerned, and by the way, these are often the guys who are most thoughtful about how do you go about approaching a woman, asking her out, because there was a time where that was the only way you met people. And so then there were people who wanted you to ask them for their number and people who didn't, and the only way to find out was to ask. And now there's a concern that if you ask and it's not wanted, that you've done something wrong. And so I think guys are sort of playing it a little more safe in real life. And so it helps to have some encouragement.
I agree completely.
Okay. Avra.
So what specifically are you asking?
Well, so I think there was sort of a time, and maybe I'm just misremembering the past.
I was not in the past, so I think I will trust whatever you're remembering. And it was true for you. So
yes, yeah. I had girlfriends who I met at the gym.
Right.
I met.
Yeah.
I would meet people at the gym. I'd meet people in my daily life, kind of thing. And you were looking for signals, but at some point you just had to walk up and start talking to someone, and you had to say, "Hey, this was fun. Would you like to meet for coffee?" And so on. And there never was like, I might be crossing a line by doing that. Like, of course, it might be like mildly uncomfortable because the person doesn't want to go to coffee with you, and then they have to find a way to
nervous,
let you down. And so, I having listened to the podcast and just thinking about it is, this idea that the apps are safe because you never have to really risk too much. But in real life, there feels like there's a moment of risk.
Well, apps are safe, I guess, but then like you have to go meet a person out in the real world at some point. I do think people are not doing a great job of that, and they'll spend a lot of time chatting because that's how they feel safe and comfortable instead of getting out on the date. I mean, a huge part of what I do is encourage people to go meet people in real life, and I'm on a crusade to get women to hand out their phone number because I think that's what you're talking about. To me, I always tell them it's like the dropping the hanky moment where they're like, well, but shouldn't the guy come up and approach me? And I'm like, guys are terrified right now. what we can do for them is let them know it's okay. We're not doing the work for them, but we're saying, I will not run away screaming if you talk to me.
By the way, it's always been hard.
Yes, exactly. That's why the drop the hanky moment exists. It's from many, many centuries ago.
Yes. And I think a lot of people don't even understand where that originates, which is when we used to live in these very small communities, to approach someone and to be rejected was terribly embarrassing because everybody knew it, and it hurt your chances with your second choice.
Right.
Because, but in a world where your second choice doesn't know they're your second choice or your 100th choice.
Wow, that sounds horrifying.
It's a tough world, like these small communities.
Very. Oh my God. Grateful I'm not there. I had a lot of images that came to mind that were negative.
So what is the dropping the hanky exactly? What does it look like?
Well, I tell women to have their phone number written on a scrap of paper in their pocket at all times. And that way they know it's there. And then if they see a man who they find interesting, appealing, make eye contact, whatever, you can do it on your way out. You walk over, give them your phone number. You're cute. Love to get a drink sometime. Let me know. Walk out. You don't even have to make conversation. You're just letting them know. I encourage similar thing with the dating apps of like, if they're not picking up the thing, if you have to start the conversation or if they're just mindlessly chatting, it's not going anywhere, you can say, we should get a drink sometime. Like, I'm just encouraging women to give that little bit of encouragement and saying, I'm not going to immediately reject you. Because I do think men kind of need that right now.
I think so too. I think they always have.
Yes, but especially now, I think it's very fraught.
Do you have Avra, do you have a piece of paper in your purse right now with your phone number?
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, but I don't have a lot of like stakes. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh my God, like that could be like my person. And I'm like, I could maybe not have a person or have one. And like my life will kind of just continue.
There's this new podcast that you would be an excellent listener for.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have, I think I've talked about this previously. I have my own version of that.
Okay.
So my solution has been, I like real life because you get a feel for someone. But you don't like real life because of the problem we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And so I have a business card, and I will do that with a business card.
The thing with the business card is,
I know it's not perfect.
I think it can come off as just professional, which is fine, but I think it's actually okay for a guy. With women, I encourage them not to do the business card thing because there can be that confusion of, is this romantic or isn't it? Mm-hmm. And the business card is more like, oh, this could be a business networking thing, or it seems a little too pre-planned. I had a listener to my podcast who I ended up having on the podcast, and because of what I had said, she had had these cards made that said like, you are attractive, and then had a phone number on the bottom.
Did she have them numbered also? So this is number 99, number 100.
And she was handing them out, and I was like, I think that's a little far in that direction because it seems like you've pre-planned it and people don't feel special, and like I think you want it to seem a little more off the cuff. I think what a guy can do is the same thing as a girl. I think you can have it on a slip of paper like, oh, this napkin from the bar, you just happen to have 5 of them in your pocket, but and that I think is also safer for guys right now than being like, hey, can I get your phone number? Because girls get weird about that.
I gave it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was. And also then, you don't hear from someone, and that's fine. They don't ever have to do it. And I would usually say, you're cute. I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee or a drink or something, and then give them the number. And then I'm out of there.
I like that for you.
And then I'm out. Yeah. I'm gone.
You're kind of a formal guy. So
I'm not wearing cargo shorts during this.
No. Thank God.
I don't own any cargo shorts.
Good for you.
Anymore.
Already big step.
Big step. I'm a grown ass man.
Yes.
So I'm going to hit you two up with a few things. Let's try to do a little rapid fire.
Okay.
So, divorced people getting back into the game. I think you think about a solo listener who needs who might be in search of a remarkable life, who might be struggling a little bit, is someone who's been out of the game for 7 years, 10 years, 20 years. What comes to mind for the divorced person? And remember, and I will say this is a little bit different because the premise is and we'll let's skip to that one first. We'll get back to the divorced people. So I always say this is a podcast for people who are single for now or forever. Right? So it may be a temporary state, 6 months, a year, 5 years, but they know eventually, or they might be like, this is my life and I like my life the way it is. But just because someone is single for now or forever doesn't mean they don't want to date. Doesn't mean they don't want to have the company of someone else. They don't want intimacy and so on. They just might not have the same goal.
Yeah. And when you define single, is it like, does that mean unmarried or does that mean not in a relationship, not in? Yeah,
I've definitely been said unmarried.
Okay.
But you might say unpartnered.
Yeah.
Fits best for for the solo listeners. And maybe someone who's dating and so on, but someone who's unpartnered. But that could be by way of being widowed.
Yeah.
It could be because of divorce. It could just be because, and it could be because of a choice or not a choice. But my point about this is there's a lot of growth, opportunity, and that it can be a rather positive part of one's life. And we shouldn't treat it as this liminal state that you're somehow less than until you achieve some status.
Totally.
Yes.
Agreed.
So, I guess let's look at advice for the person who is solo forever.
How do they know forever?
Well, okay, that's a good point. But okay, so I think this is a tough thing is that if you sort of know, like if at the moment you go, I don't want to get married, I'm not interested in that. I have in my own personal experiences, I feel that it is unfair to say, I don't want to get married, but never say never. I might change my mind.
It's unfair of who to say that? Like you as a person?
Yes. Because what it can do is you can say to someone, well.
But people are going to do that in their head anyway when they meet you. They're going to
but they can't blame
that.
They can't blame you for if you say, I don't ever want to get married.
Yeah, they can't blame you, but they still will.
Well, but at least you can manage your own guilt.
Yes, you can manage your own guilt. And it's good. I fully approve of setting the right expectations from the beginning.
And maybe you could say, let's just say the solo person who's not looking for that partnership.
Sure.
What advice do you have for them?
In terms of how to date?
Approaching dating. Like what are the kind of things? Do you think it's any different, I guess, is my point.
I mean, I don't really think so. I've had people ask me if they should put things like that on their dating profile. And I say no, because I think we have enough barriers to get to a date as it is. And I don't think it's leading someone on to go on 1 date or 2 dates or 3 dates and not say that. I think if you were starting to like regularly date and it was getting relationshipy and you still hadn't said that.
No, I'd say it on first date number 1.
I mean, that's probably good. I'm just saying don't put it on you don't need to put it on your dating profile because you do want to date and you want to be on dates, and that is going to stop a lot of people from wanting to go on dates with you. So there may be people out there like you, or there may be people who are totally happy to date you while they look for someone more long term or whatever it is. So why add another barrier for yourself, I guess?
Avra, what do you think?
I think it sounds like, I'm also not divorced, so I don't want to be that person that's like, oh my God, look at your divorce getting back out there, because they probably don't feel like that. And I just hate when people shove it down your throat, because it's just not nice. But I think it could be an interesting time to when asked the questions that you don't get to answer every day in your life, when you're on a date and those are the questions being asked, because you haven't done that in a while, learn what your answers are, and to hear yourself answer things that no one ever asks you and you aren't required to ever say. You're like, oh my God, I do say that. It's almost when you go out in any way with a person and then another person, and that person's your best friend, and yet when they're asked questions that you're not asking them, you're like, oh wow, do I even know you? I'm just learning so much about you. I think that feeling and that whatever is so cool. So to have that about yourself and to be oh my God, that is my answer to that. Oh, I've never thought of it that way. Or to learn that much about yourself, I think is really cool. And wherever that leads to, whether it's with the person that you're going out with or the next person, the next, or none of those people, and you are just on this solo journey, and you're focusing on yourself and you're the solo person in the solo podcast. Oh my God.
I'm not paying her for to say the word solo, I promise.
Sorry. But what an amazing, because I'm not going to go home and be like, where are the questions that I would be asked if I wanted a date? I'm going to go ahead and answer those.
Yes.
Like, no, I'm never going to answer those. So like the only way to really find out is if you're forced to answer them in a setting that like, what are you going to do? Be like, I'm not answering any of your questions. Like, no, you're probably going to answer them. And like, if that leads to a person being interested in you and you have like a thing, great. And if that leads to like solo, LOL, back on that, like, oh my God, you have soloed the shit out of that moment, and that those answers and that learning about yourself will just take you on a positive solo journey. So yeah, I support it, but like I also understand that like if they're like, oh my God, well, like, oh, this is really hard right now, or this sucks, or this feels overwhelming, or this feels hard, it's like validation. Like, yeah, like haven't been there, support that those are the feelings, obviously, like, you know, fight through them with my spiel of yay-ness.
Yes.
But like no judgment, you know?
I get it. I think hearing you two talk about this, I think there's something kind of striking, which is there's a script that most people are accustomed to, which is you go out with someone and you're trying to assess your compatibility, oftentimes for some long-term goal, which I think what you're saying, Daliya, is it's hard to do on date number 1 or 2 or 3. It takes a while to do this. Now, if you are a person who, first of all, hasn't read that script or run that script in a long time because you've been in a marriage for 20 years, you need to sort of figure out, especially because the script has probably changed since the 80s or 90s. And then if you are a single person who doesn't have that long-term goal, well, then it feels like the script is altered also.
Right. Totally.
And so you can feel some discomfort with doing it because of a lack of experience or a lack of clarity of how to do this. But Avra, what you're saying, I think, is, and I like this a lot, is dating should be fun. You know, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, but in the same way that exercise is uncomfortable, it's also fun. Like those of us who like to go to the gym are really lucky. And those of us who like to have coffee or meet someone for a drink or a bite to eat or invite them to Dilemma dinner are lucky.
Oh my God, that is very true.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
the lucky thing. Yes.
It's so fortunate. You view it as an opportunity rather than, can we just hurry up and get to the point where we can
Right.
Well,
get
yeah.
married.
Get married or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pee in front of each other. Whatever that comfort level is that people say is like, oh, we're now.
Yeah.
In that place. So is it fair to say, the idea of being open-minded, getting rid of the checklist, trying to see this as an opportunity not only to grow as a person, but also to then explore your identity.
Totally.
What kind of person do you want to be in the world of dating?
Yeah.
Okay. I do think these divorced people need special help.
Okay.
And I'll tell a story of a friend of mine who's a listener. He's going to love this. So he got divorced, and one day, it wasn't right away, but he was starting to think about, getting back out there. And we had to have the talk. And the talk was about his look. And that his look had been frozen.
Yes.
The day that he got married, or probably even before that kind of thing. And so, and I made it a little bit dramatic, but it came from a place of love. And so, he needed a haircut. He needed some new clothing. He needed to fix up his apartment and so on, just to make him, this is a good looking man, a charming man, a funny man, a successful man. And actually the kind of guy who women love, because he has this, I wish I could be more of this kind of man, which is masculine, athletic, fit, but then also sensitive, compassionate, easy, the kind of person who you just feel fabulously special when you're around, energizing and so on. But that Zach, what's the Saved by the Bell?
Zach Morris.
Zach Morris haircut that he had was like brutalizing his sex life, or excuse me, his dating life. And he went and got like a real haircut. And I have a podcast I've already launched called Dude Get a Haircut. And he got this haircut. It was jaw dropping. Like it changed everything about him. And then he got rid of the dad jeans and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I think like some of these folks who've been out of the game for a while, and even some of the folks who are into the game, need a little of this. What are your reactions to that idea?
I mean, I think he's very lucky to have a friend like you.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Everyone. I mean, I think that's probably very true that people need to come back out there and start from a strong place. They should hire me, obviously, because I can help with this if they don't have a friend who will be as honest with them as you will. Yeah, I think that's probably.
Do you do that? Do you say to people?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there like a magic, like suppose like a listener wants to help someone, or let's suppose we have a listener who has this problem, doesn't know they have this problem.
Sure.
How would you go about doing it?
Me as a coach?
Yes.
Or if someone listening is their friend?
As a coach.
As a coach, I think I have more freedom to be pretty straightforward.
Because they're paying you and looking for the
And
help.
I'll say, have you ever tried a different hairstyle? Have you ever tried different clothing? I've been to clients' house and helped them pick out outfits.
We went through his closet and made piles.
Yeah. And you just got to be real.
Shopping.
You got to say the apps are very superficial. So the first thing you have to do is get everything in order so people are going to want to.
Bonus material.
Yeah. To, swipe right on you first and foremost. If you don't get past that point, you're not getting anywhere.
Right. Avra, have you ever done this to someone to help them spruce up their look?
Oh, I mean, I am a very big fashion person. I love clothes, like probably when I'm bored in a class, which doesn't happen anymore because thankfully I'm no longer in college, but I like picture outfit combinations in my head. So,
oh my God.
I
didn't know that.
Are you
I'm like
drafting them on a piece of paper?
No, but like I just really like colors and patterns and shapes. I feel like that's not what we were talking about. So I feel like I need to come back.
But have you helped people with
She
that?
does have great style. She does. And I've asked her to help, but I think I'm helpless.
Oh, have I like used that to help?
I'm looking at your chill t-shirt right now.
Thank you.
It's a non-video podcast.
Yeah.
So.
I think I've like lifted people up in ways and like told them nice things about their best qualities and pumped them up for moments where maybe they felt like, this isn't going to go well. And then it's like, no, bitch. Yes, it is.
That's great.
This is what's great about you,
Yeah. So, okay. But what if it's a friend? So when you're a coach,
when I'm a coach,
you have license and you can, yeah.
I think as a friend, similarly, you can say, have you ever tried, which is like a good suggestive way to do it. Or like, I think you would look so good with blah, blah, blah. Or like, I saw this dress that you would look so good in.
I see.
Like maybe, and like another good way I think to frame it is that it's more fun for them. So if you're like, I know you're not really enjoying this day and thing. Have you ever thought about just like getting a new outfit or like getting a fresh haircut so you feel sexy again? Like you should have fun. You should feel sexy,
I teamed up with a female friend of mine, many years ago, and we did a makeover of one of our friends.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. Who doesn't like to be made over?
She pitched it. And so it was a little less, you know what I mean? And she pitched as this fun kind of thing. And that's the thing about makeovers is like, when people need them, they work.
Yeah.
I think bringing it back to all my single friends, also if that person had other single friends, because what might be hard is like if you get divorced and it's like, say you were married with kids and all your friends are married with kids.
Yes.
It's like, how do you relate to people that have never been on a dating app, aren't on dating apps, aren't single, don't know what it's like to try and be like attracting people when they have been not trying to attract people for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So surrounding yourself with those type of people, cause then it's almost more like swappiness and not like, okay, you're the higher power that I have to, like listen to, or I'm trying to relate to somebody who isn't even in this. Like, then how do I relate. I also do have to say this is very similar to the plot of the film Crazy Stupid Love. So
oh, yes, it is.
Watch that if you need some bonus material at home. Check it out, Steve Carell.
And what's the good-looking guy?
Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, so I got to be Ryan Gosling in this story.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say is get a Ryan Gosling.
Get a Ryan
He'll
Gosling.
hook it up, and then you're good, probably.
So I like this idea. So one of the things I think, and I've done this a few times now, is I tell my own personal story of how I spruced myself up.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And how it's been, how it matters.
Totally.
Like it truly matters. And it only matters. Actually, the other thing is, you should do this as an aside to anyone listening. You should do it for yourself to begin with, because when you feel better, when you look better and are dressed better, you then start to be better. And then the world starts to treat you in that way.
Wow. That's inspiring.
So I feel like I took care of my looks for my own confidence, and then people then treat you like a confident person.
Yeah, totally.
I like this idea that actually maybe your first step as a divorced person is not to just get right back out there, but to then seek out single friends who are going to become a support system. And, the veterans.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think like in a more broad sense, it's great if you feel different in any kind of way from the people you're surrounded by, or just different in general, to find people that are different in that same way. I think that's like Prozac, but like in live form without a psychiatrist.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And also then it doesn't, suddenly, part of the reason that I'm doing this is to try to institute a new norm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to know like, oh, there's other people out there who think this way.
Oh,
and think
yes.
it's okay.
Crucial. Yeah.
So I love that. So I'm going to cover a couple other quick things before we get to this. Everybody really just cares about this dating profile review, but, so I want to talk about Peter Pans.
Oh, okay.
I've heard you use that term. I don't know, Avra, do you use the term Peter Pan?
No, but I can guess what it is based on having seen the film so many years ago.
So I actually wanted to ask you your definition of a Peter Pan.
To me, Peter Pan would just be someone who doesn't want to grow up, who is enjoying their life. I actually don't necessarily even think it's a negative thing. I just think it's negative when they're not communicating that expectation to whoever they're dating. Because I coach a lot of people who have experience with Peter Pans, and they're always like, but I'm going to be the one to change his mind. And it's like, that's not on the table. He doesn't want that. He's having a great time with you. He has no reason to change the trajectory of his life.
Yes.
So I think it's people who are enjoying their life, don't have that need, at least not right now, or maybe once in a while the right person changes this and that. But for the most part, they're like, I like being young and fun, and I want to stay young and fun, and I don't want to conform to the societal thing that I have to go settle down and have a family. And they stay kind of young forever.
Okay. I like that definition. When the term comes, it doesn't help that my name is Peter.
Yeah.
And that I live a fun life.
Yeah.
even put
And
that
that you
together.
don't want to settle down.
And I don't want to settle down.
Right.
And so, the term settling down, like, I don't want to be settled down.
Right. I like to say settle in. I change it to settling in.
That's good. That's very nice.
I always say I settled in.
Yes, I understand. And so but what happens is the term gets thrown around, and I think it is typically thrown around as a pejorative.
Yeah.
But I think it's because it's a mismatch between two people's goals.
Yes.
And I do think whether the Peter Pan is male or female, I don't think it actually has to matter. I know there's sort of typical gender roles when it comes to this, is the Peter Pan, so to speak, deserves some blame for not communicating well.
Yes.
And so, because I don't like that idea that a Peter Pan's not a grown-up.
No.
Because
I think they've chosen what they want. They just have to be clear that that's what they're doing.
Yes.
I have an issue when they don't know they're a Peter Pan and they're like, no, I want someone, I just haven't found the right person yet. And I'm like 55 and have never been in a long-term relationship. And it's like, at a certain point, you have to take responsibility for your choices.
And own it and communicate it. Yeah, okay, that's very nice. Okay, so last question. This one's, I always ask, and I'm not joking. before we get to the bonus for the solo folks. I'm selling the shit out of this.
Yeah, building it up.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to that stands out? Really good. Not run-of-the-mill good, really good. Great. One or two things, please.
I'll go.
Okay.
I am reading Come As You Are, which is a book about vaginas.
Oh, see?
So
We're on the leading edge here.
Yes. It's good so far. I thought as having my job, I should educate myself more on sexual topics and like how to communicate and all that. So it's a lot about the idea of sex drive and the components of sex drive, which are the accelerator and the brakes for both men and women, lead to all kinds of interesting discussions about, who wants sex more and how to deal with that question. So I'm reading that. I'm sad to say I'm watching Love is Blind. You know, I have a kind of one-track mind, so this is what I do.
This is, you can write all this down too.
What?
This is for tax purposes, all these purchases.
Oh, yes, totally. Love is Blind on Netflix. I wouldn't say it is good, but I would say it is somewhat interesting. And since everything I watch, I try and get something out of it that I can use. I do think there's some useful stuff in there.
What is Love is Blind?
Love is Blind is essentially a dating show where singles are put into pods. They go on first dates with each other without seeing each other. So there's talking. Then they narrow it down. And over the course of like 2 weeks, they talk to each other. They have like 6-7 hour dates with each other, just talking, not seeing each other. Then this is where it gets ridiculous. They'll decide they're ready to get married, that they found their soulmate. Then it starts following them into... They go on a trip together. Now they're going to move back together and move in together and get married in 3 weeks. That part's stupid. But what I found useful that I thought was interesting was, so of course it's on TV, so everyone is somewhat attractive. There's no one like super unattractive. But the really typically objectively attractive people did the best on the dates and had the most kind of like success, if you will. And you couldn't see them. So it kind of said to me like, those people have a definite confidence and like they're not used to getting rejected. They're expecting to succeed. They're carrying themselves like they're attractive. They're communicating in so many other ways.
Even without their looks.
Yes.
That's great.
And so that was really interesting. And same kind of along those lines is they're in these rooms with like couches and tables and wine and other knickknacks they can play with. They're walking around. And I thought it was really interesting how much easier it was for them to have a good time on these dates and be vulnerable when they weren't sitting across from each other in a stuffy bar staring, and when they could lie down, wear pajamas, walk around, drink their wine, lie on the floor, get under the table, like whatever it is. So I now have a goal for people's dates.
That's fun.
To be able to do that. Move and do things.
Wow.
So I found something good there. You know, it's not, I wouldn't call it quality television.
I'm still putting it in the exhibits.
Something, yes.
Avra?
Yeah. I'm reading the book, High Maintenance. Sorry. No, I'm so sorry. That's not what it's called, but that's an important topic to learn about. It's called High Achiever. It's about a woman who, grew up like super type A, got really good grades, was a super high achiever, and then got really into drugs and went to jail. And it's like her journey through
This is a memoir.
jail. Great, incredible memoir. I pretty much only read memoirs. I think they're the most interesting. Not that I'm not open to other things, but, I'm not open to fantasy or anything unrealistic.
You want real?
I only want real always. Same for television.
I'm sensing this as like a theme in your life.
Oh, yeah. I think so. Yeah, that's a good sense. I'm sensing you're right.
And you said TV too? You like
Only real.
Okay.
Would not watch anything that's even borderline takes place in a strange
I think that's
reality.
fascinating as an actress.
Wait, do you mean reality TV or you mean like things that are taking
Fictitious.
place in like the current climate, but they could be fiction?
No, yeah, so I wouldn't watch things like Star Wars, absolutely not.
But you might watch Veep.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, I get it. Oh, neat. Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't have to be like true story or
I see. But it just has to be real.
it just has to like, could this have happened / be happening right now?
Okay, I'm going to
takes a lot off the
forgive
table. Oh, yeah.
any Star Wars geeks out there who think that could actually
I won't
happen.
list the other similar trilogies, etc., that would fall under the same category. Think you're still a great person if you listened and watched those things. Support you in all those endeavors. Absolutely would not watch them with you, but
Not your cup of tea.
would hang out after or before, and definitely not during. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. Say goodbye to our I'm Not Joking listeners.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you to both of you.
Pleasure.
So fun.
Great. Cheers. Okay, we're back for our bonus material. I'm asking my guests, Daliya and Avra, to critique. We're going to certainly do one. We'll hopefully get through both of these dating profiles. And I've been told that we should start with mine. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what to expect. So these are both from Bumble. And I'm going to have you two describe the pictures.
Oh, cool.
And you please have fun with this.
Okay.
Don't treat me delicately.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Their faces. Oh my God.
No, I'm really into this so far.
So,
I would say I'm very captivated by the first photo. It is of Peter looking very regal. He is in a very specifically crafted suit that does fit him well, I would say, with a great undershirt and the right amount of unbutton at the top. Cannot fully tell where he is. Originally, I thought like a pool hall, but I feel like that's wrong if I look closer. But because you only really look at this for a second, we could go with pool hall, and he's ready to take on the world.
So that's good.
Oh, I mean, it's very specific, which I really like because a person has a strong reaction to it, which I think is better than just like, huh, or like, or I don't know. So I like that about it. Yeah, somebody is specifically going to be like, yes.
And that's what you want. You want strong yeses.
You want a strong yes.
Yeah.
My initial reaction to it was no.
Okay.
Only because in a world like LA, where everyone's an actor, model, hyphenate, and has these professional shots taken, I think it presents you as more of like a pretty boy than you are.
I'm not a
You're
pretty
not.
boy.
You do dress well, and it does say I'm distinguished and I dress well, but it almost looks, I mean, I'm being totally honest. It looks a little bit vain to me. And I mean, my guess is that you've been doing just fine and you're attracting the right women for you. Cause like Avra said, it's very specific. So someone who really didn't like that probably isn't the right person for you. But if I were you, I would potentially put something just a little more relaxed as my first photo.
Fair
and
enough.
have that third or fourth, like the boxing one is hot. It says I'm a little bit more like in action. It's a candid shot.
So I have a picture of me. That's a new addition.
Yeah, I like that.
Me punching a heavy bag.
I like that.
And
again, like the Critics' Choice one is a great photo, but I wouldn't have that first either because we're in LA and I just feel like
I see.
There's too much.
There's a picture of me in a tuxedo at the Critics' Choice Award looking as good as I can look.
You look great. I mean, all of these pics, you look great. And like I said, I'm sure you're not struggling. If you told me you were struggling or attracting the wrong kind of women, I would say tone down how hot you are and tone up how approachable you
Look,
are.
I am incredibly flattered that you think I might be quote unquote too hot for these photos because I don't think of myself as terribly photogenic. I think I do much better in person. And so the fact that this might be a bug is actually a compliment.
I think,
Okay. What about my description?
Should I read it?
Please.
Professor, author, and gentleman preparing for a book launch. April Fool's Day. Looking for enticing company and witty banter during my downtime. And then you have your Instagram handle. I think that's great, honestly.
Okay.
I think it's the only thing I would say that you could do to help out the ladies who have to make the first comment. I always tell my clients to add something of a hook.
Okay.
So whether it's a very specific detail about where you get your favorite martini or what your favorite book is or something specific and sensory related that hooks people in more than like a list of adjectives.
Yes, I see.
And, or something like, I instructed one of my clients recently. It was kind of like, I know where to get the best margarita in town. Prove me wrong.
I see.
Like something that's a hook that says, you can talk to me and I'll make it easy for you. Here's what to say. And I know you're looking for someone with witty banter. So ideally they don't need your help, but it still could just crack you open and make you a little more approachable.
Okay. I had something at one point. I never really did anything with it. It was a little cheeky, but, like almost too tall, surprisingly fit and something else, like a little rule of three.
I like
kind
that.
of thing,
Yeah. That's cute.
which is
But they can see that in your pictures.
They don't need that.
I don't think you need to describe yourself.
Got it.
I think you want to give more sensory day in the life kind of details than like generic adjectives about yourself or the person you're looking for. You don't need to. The other thing I discourage people from doing is describing the person they're looking for.
Yes, I get that. I used to have something like that.
Yeah, unless it's going to be very specific once again. And then you have never smoker, no pets, something casual, and don't want children. I'm a voter. I respect your wanting to be honest with something casual.
Yes.
I wonder if you just do you have to select something?
You know, I actually, no, you don't have to. And for a long time, I'm not super active on the apps. And I like Bumble because I think of it as sort of pro-woman because it's like, you know, it kind of has this extra barrier that these ladies don't get inundated. I had nothing before. You know, and it was fine. It's just, I felt like, then I was having these conversations about what I want, what I don't want. And, you know, I just didn't want, I don't, you know, you talk about wasting time. I didn't feel like I wanted to waste any time because there's a lot of people who are very clear about what they want.
Well, I kind of think your not wanting children to me would already communicate kind of what you're saying, but I could be wrong. And if you are having that conversation a lot and you just wanted to cut those people out, I get it. I think
it's limiting me a bit.
A little because you are open to partnership, right? You are not open to marriage, but you're open to long-term partnership with the right person. So I just think something casual kind of gives you an air that you don't necessarily want to have.
I have to say with the book launch, it'd be nice to spend some time with someone, but I'm not at this. I'm just, you know what I mean?
And
like
keep it.
My full night, like day, you know, like this is a Sunday and my day started at 6 a.m. and we're going, you know what I mean? And so, but I don't want to be celibate, you know, until April 2nd.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not that far away.
Yeah, you could do it for a month.
What do you think?
Oh, about
anything about any of it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually thought the bio offered enough specifics where it wasn't like, hi, what up, let's chill, you know, the very generic thing. So I was about it. I felt you showed that you are hardworking and motivated, which is something that I would be super into because that is what I look for, not just like, I'm looking to only hang out. I'm not looking to hang out. So like, I support that and find that to be a great thing. Yeah, I mean, I know this isn't your choosing, but I like some of the things that they make you answer on the app because I feel like that's helpful. And I thought what you were looking for was not so, I only want this, but it was like, I'm looking for this. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, great. I was into it. Yeah. I thought, great job. Yeah.
And I do like your perfect Sunday thing.
So it says, write, brunch, nap, workout or hike, museum or comedy, laughs, no electronics.
I will say overall, despite my criticism, this profile does paint a pretty accurate picture of you, which I think is the most important thing.
I try to be as honest and transparent as possible.
Yeah. And I think we get your voice. We get kind of your wry sense of humor. We get your level of education. All that comes across.
Okay.
You do have a picture in questionable cargo pants kind of looking things, but
I am in Africa, the equator.
It says, and it's nice because it communicates I can also be this guy.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's okay.
Anything else? Other things that come
I don't know if you had to fill out your favorite karaoke song, but I'm really glad you did.
It
really brings like images to mind. It gets me singing a song which I wasn't singing before. It made me have a better day. I'm having a better day after reading that.
My go-to karaoke song is Going Back to Cali by L.O.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I should have read that out loud. I mean, can you imagine it? I can, and now I'm ready to go sing it.
It's not a terrible song to do
it.
as a non-singer.
I also would then, like, if I went out with you, I'd be like, can you just, like, have a moment to sing? But I don't know if other people would do that, but, like, that's where I'm at, and
she liked the ocean. That's a line.
Thank you so much. No, I knew that. I thought you were going to continue, so I just gave you the space too, but that's cool. Yeah.
Okay, so overall good. It seems like the big note is maybe a different first picture. Maybe a different first picture.
I would play with that. I would see what happens. Okay. I'm all about also changing things up every 2-3 weeks. Okay. So, because it keeps you at the top of the pile.
Oh, is that true?
Fresh, yes.
I didn't know that.
The algorithm. So. Just changing the picture and seeing like what happens if I put this one first? What happens what kind of person do I attract? It's an interesting study you're interested in.
Yeah, of course. I love experiments or even quasi experiments.
I would try it out and see what happens.
Okay. Wow. I thought that was going to be painful. All right.
You'll notice at our show too, we're highly encouraging. We use encouragement.
I love it. I think, look, you get more flies with honey.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So our next profile is actually a previous guest, Jill Cohen, who was in
we're naming her. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. She's okay with it.
Okay. Cool.
She sent me these.
I'm excited.
She sent me these. She was a guest on the, What is a Remarkable Life episode, and she is a solo listener. So she's going to hear this. And she's great. She'd be a great improviser. She yes ands things.
Oh, that is.
So the first, just people may not know it. So Jill's first picture is her in a backpack looking over her shoulder, big smile. And it says what she is. She's an ER travel nurse at lots of different hospitals in the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center. And I know Jill. I've known her for many years. This is what Jill looks like. So she looks like her photos.
Great.
Wow. I don't even date women, but I'm in love with her. Mm-hmm. So maybe I do now. I just didn't know it. Call me Jill. Although you're out of my age range that I'm seeking. So probably no. I feel like this, even before you said this photo actually looks like her, I felt like it did. This feels like a very real photo, which is cool because I'm not like, oh, but is she really blah, blah, blah. No, she is. And it shows her just, I think,
lean,
the
athletic,
best version of herself, and like in a good moment and not trying to be something that she's not. And also I learned something about her. I feel like she's like adventurous and not afraid to get messy and carefree. And oh my God, Jill, live it up. And also your job. Wow. What the fuck? Like, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I'm so inspired by you. You are an ER travel nurse at multiple locations. Oh my God, Jill, I don't know if you're still single, but like, wow, good job.
She's been traveling the world, financing it as a travel nurse. And she picks sort of far out, rural, beautiful places because she's very active.
Cool. Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. What else?
So cool. I have to continue. Sorry. I was stuck on that.
I'm looking. So really, she hasn't answered any of the Bumble questions. She just did the description of herself. So she hasn't done any of those. You know how yours had a couple answers
so. Yeah,
to the questions?
I could be wrong.
She has a bunch of pictures.
Oh, no, there it is.
No, but I mean, she doesn't have my go-to karaoke song is.
Oh, she hasn't answered those questions. I see. She's
okay.
done the check.
I'm cool with this.
Okay. I noticed that most women don't.
Interesting.
It's very rare.
I wonder
It's
why.
a lot of pictures and very rarely. And here's the problem. And this is a free piece of advice. When it's don't choose beach or mountains and then say both.
What?
So one of the questions is beach or mountains, question mark. And then the answer
both.
is both.
Yeah,
It
why?
just feels like you're trying
very
really hard.
unspecific.
And you don't have to
generic
choose that.
answer.
If you don't have an answer, don't choose that question.
Right.
So, okay.
So her bio, should I read it?
Please.
Things I like: rolling down the windows, taking the stairs, books, slam dunks, a tailwind, being airborne, a well-constructed sentence, banter, breakthroughs, breakfast, running amok in the mountains, teamwork, real connection, and inside jokes with you. Home is Boulder, Colorado. Current home is Truckee, California. I think that's great. The only thing I would say, knowing a man's mind, is it's very long. And it's a long list. And she says she loves a well-constructed sentence. And to be totally honest, that's not a well-constructed sentence.
Well done.
So you can't really say that. If you're going to you just pick like 3 of those things, because the poor man is going to start drowning. And again, like, we want to make something accessible for people to talk about.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the way men's minds work, and I know some women will be like, well, then that's not the right man for me. But that is all men on these apps. Swipe, swipe, swipe. If it's too long, I'm not reading it.
And I actually read everything
Of
before I
course
make
you
a
do,
decision,
but you are
I understand.
a very rare man. You're an anomaly.
I sometimes sit and like ponder.
Of course.
And
makes sense.
And then if I'm like, then I say no.
Right.
But, so as another story, and I think it's safe for me to tell this story. One of my other guests and co-hosts, Julie from episode 1 and some other ones, I don't think she's on the apps at this point, but she had one of these very long lists.
Yeah.
And we sat down. I said, you can't do this.
Yeah.
It's too much stuff. I said, what is the most important thing?
Right.
And she said, mountain biking.
Great.
And then I said, what's the next most important thing? She said, live music.
Yes.
And then I said, okay. And then I took a cocktail napkin and I just worked. And then I said, okay, I have your third thing. Cockfighting. What? So her thing became mountain biking, live music, cockfighting. And It's a bold move.
Bold move. Very bold move.
It's a bold move.
And
I have to tell you, it was the perfect opener.
Sure, it works.
God.
I absolutely can see that.
Because no one ever believed that is truly the case.
Right. And then it gives them something to ask about. And that's all people need. They need an in. They need a hook. They need help.
That's right. So we're going to work on Jill's.
But her specifics are so good.
Specifics are great, yes.
Wow, love the attention to detail. So if it's just like a few of those, and I'm sure she can narrow them down. Yes. Wow. Yes. I'm inspired, but I learned a lot.
I mean, it gives such a great picture of who she is, and it's so clear and it's so fun. But again, I do think it gets a little more generic as it goes down.
Okay.
So I think you can tell she was kind of losing interest and she was kind of like continuing to list things. So I think the first like 3 are super strong, like rolling down the windows, such a specific thing. Taking the stairs, such a specific thing. Slam dunks, great. Books, meh, boring. Like, okay, that's where I would say a type of book or a name of a book or something a little more specific. But any of these are great. It's just then like breakfast, breakthroughs. Like to me, those are generic.
Yeah. If I were giving notes, Jill, I'm giving notes now. I would do rolling down the windows, a well-constructed sentence, and slam dunks.
Because then that's a well-constructed sentence and a slam dunk.
And and she doesn't need to say running amok in the mountains because her pictures show
right,
that. Totally. So all of her pictures are, if you could describe a few of her pictures.
Yeah, like we have one where she's at the top of the mountain in all her snowboard gear, super happy, living it up. And
she has one, what's the other one?
She's swinging from great heights over a mountain, in a swing.
Yes. They're all very active.
I'm very clear what she's most into. And like, thank God, because what if I was like, oh, I don't like those things, then not for me. And if I was like, oh, I love those things, the most for me ever.
Yes.
Like specificity, you know?
Is this disappointing that these are not so bad?
No, this is great. It makes me happy. It gives me hope. My only question for her too, and I'm not entirely sure what the answer to this question is.
Okay.
Is she has that she's looking for a relationship.
Yes.
If I was looking at these photos, I would say, how the hell is this woman going to have a relationship? She's everywhere. She doesn't need me. Not that you have to seem like you need someone, but, and I wouldn't normally give this advice of like looking for a partner in crime or some stupid thing like that. But or she just might need to get this out in the first conversation, the first date, how she envisions a partner fitting into this life.
Yeah, she's obviously, she's on the road a lot. And
right.
So on.
So looking at it, I'd be like, wow, she looks really fun. But she doesn't want me. I'm just like a lawyer in a city, like I'm a guy. I don't know. How am I going to keep up with this? So if anything, I'd say maybe swap out just one picture with something a little more like grounded.
I see.
Like something that says, I also can sit and have a cup of tea and a conversation. And I don't need to be swinging from a swing over a mountain all the time. Unless she does, which is great. But I'm just saying, like, to me, my first instinct is a little bit of like, that you look super fun. I don't know where I fit in.
Yeah,
or that you even want me to.
I think that's a fair note, especially because Jill can have a conversation.
Totally.
She's a wonderful conversationalist. Yeah. I think that one of the tough things about these, so you can say, you're a drinker, you're a smoker, pets, but I think Bumble's things are marriage, relationship, something casual.
I hate that.
Don't know yet.
Oh, yeah.
And so
those are not the only options.
And you don't have to choose one. You can't choose.
Maybe it's one thing with you and one thing with you, or I don't know because I've literally never met you. Like,
right, exactly. I think it's such a silly, stupid
I think that's a tough thing. Although I do think Bumble is more relationship focused than other apps.
But like any app is relationship focused if the right people meet, and any app is not relationship focused if the not right people meet. Like,
yes,
people have gotten married from Tinder over and over again, and yet everyone's like, Tinder's the hookup one.
Indeed.
And I'm like, but often hookups lead to marriage. So,
can we do one last thing before we go?
I can. Can you?
All right. So, so she also sent me, because one of the things about Bumble is the woman has to do the opener,
right?
And I can tell you is that the modal opener is hi, hey, or something like that. Hello. Mm-hmm. Maybe it doesn't even have your name. It's just hi, hey, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the proportion of women who do something interesting is incredibly low, less than 10%, might be 1%. And so whenever someone does that, it so stands out.
Yeah.
And so Jill sent me a couple of her openers, which I have in front of me that I'm going to read them to her. And of course, hers are part of the 1%.
Of course, yes.
Love it.
All right.
Love her.
So, her first one is sent at 9:52 a.m. to Kickfire. That's the guy's name.
That's his real name?
Well, that's the name on his app. That's his app name. And it says, she goes, okay, your name isn't really Kickfire, is it? Or it is, and you have the raddest mom in the world. I'm a good snowboarder, but I've never been split boarding. Really want to try it, though. Would you ever take a first-timer up Rubicon Peak? I have my eye on that one.
Great.
I don't have his full response, but he says, Jill, sounds like an excellent plan. I'm actually headed up the hill now to get some turns in before work. I'll reach out later. So he's already engaged in things. So that, anything?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Solid work.
Solid work.
I would respond.
I sense you have a tone.
For her sake, and this might not be the case with her at all, but I get so many people coming to me of like, I'm exhausted from this. I'm overwhelmed from this. I don't want to do this anymore. And to them, I say, why are you making, to have such a well thought out and considered and long and interesting opener would be exhausting for every single person that you're going to talk to. So I'm a big fan of something snappy and quick, like the first questions. Okay, your name isn't really Kickfire, is it?
Boom.
That's
done.
enough. Then you start the conversation. Now, to be fair, this totally worked. And maybe everyone makes a comment about his name and that's boring to him. So she went on with the snowboarding thing, which is great. Obviously this is working for her. But my tip to her, if she were to be like, this is exhausting, I'm sick of putting in all this effort for not as much back, would be make it easier on yourself, come up with one line. And also there is something a little bit about that first one that says, I can have a conversation with myself, which is great, which is a great quality. But again, your goal with the messaging is get the conversation started, see if you get a little bit of a vibe, and then get to a date.
Okay. I would say this, the strength of your advice is because the modal thing is high. Mm-hmm. Anything more than that has some zing of interest, you're already set apart.
Great.
Okay.
And you don't have to make it hard for yourself. All of that said, kudos to her, and I think she did a great job, and she's attracting the right people for her.
Okay, the other one is Grant, 10:05 a.m. Mm-hmm. Not sure if it was the same day or not.
Okay, great. I mean, both are full batteries,
let me check her. Same number of bars, same battery level.
Could be.
We don't know, though.
Oh, but this is when she screenshotted them.
This is.
These could be from 3 years ago.
Yeah, we don't know when these are. Okay.
That's a good point.
Yep.
True.
Hi, Grant! ! 4 kids. Wow. How do you get them all out of the house with both of their shoes on? I can barely do that myself. Smiley face. Jill.
Love.
Yeah, love.
Great.
I think it's great. Again, for me, it's a little too much effort from her.
Uh-huh.
But if she doesn't mind and she came up with that quick and it was easy for her, then great.
Now, what I like about it is his response. Hi, Jill! ! 2 of them pay their own rent at this point, so the days of stressful transitions are long in the past, but yes, both shoes, backpacks, blah, 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 all those kinds of things. So I like that she gets information that this dude doesn't have 4 children.
Oh, yes.
Excellent point.
Very good.
House.
She did if that's what she was doing, that was a very smart way to find that out, because that's true too, is some people want to ask those questions and they don't know a good way to do it. So it gets into kind of a tacky, weird conversation real quick. And she did a great job of wanting more information and going about it in a cute way.
Super.
Good job, Jill.
Jill.
You're killing it.
She's making dating apps
Nailing.
look so fun.
Looking fun, yeah.
Oh my God. People should be on dating apps that aren't even dating just to have conversations like that. I want to know about Grant's 4 kids.
Yeah.
I want to snowboard now. What is going on?
I do think there is, obviously she's leaning into this and she's trying to make it good. And obviously it's, I would say this is, so no, this wasn't as exciting for the listeners to have you rip these apart. But hopefully they serve as an inspiration.
Yes, inspiration. In
terms of giving this a little bit, spending a little bit of extra time and putting a little more thoughtfulness in there in a world where everybody is just they're doing it, but they're sort of mailing it in.
Right.
it gives you a chance to sort of stand out. And by the way, as I like to say, is the most appealing people, the people you often want to match with, also have lots of other people who they can match with. And so, it's worth it it's worth it to keep that in mind.
Yes.
So
stand out from the crowd.
As I said, I was super excited to have you two do this.
Thank you.
I'm very happy. I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
And the feedback. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us. And people should come tell my single friends if they're.
I'm going to put in the exhibits.
Perfect.
Yes.
Great.
And I'm gumming as soon as I can.
So they can even meet you. Oh my God.
Look out. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Solo, the single person's guide